So as a veteran hiring manager, I can sit here all day and talk to you about what I want to see in a cover letter, a resume, and what I want to hear in the interview, but none of that matters if you cannot make it past the gatekeeper of the recruiter. So today I want to talk to you about what you should be aware of when you're talking to a recruiter versus the hiring manager, and then some do's and don'ts at the end in order to assure that you make it to the next round. Hi, I'm Kristen. I am an executive career coach helping mid to senior level corporate women rise through the ranks, get promoted, and transition into work they love. And that always means making it past the recruiter. So the first thing I want to discuss is whether or not you have an external recruiter or an internal recruiter. So you're typically going to see an external recruiter if you're applying to a smaller organization. They'll use an outside sourcing company to vet the candidates and screen the candidates before they move on to the hiring manager. It's important to understand this because an external recruiter is a salesperson. They are often, if not always, paid on commission, and it's usually they get commission when they place the person, and then they get commission later at the 6 or the 9 month mark. So it does behoove them to make sure that they get it right. But if you're outside an organization, you're not going to understand the corporate culture. You're not going to have an understanding of the values that the corporation holds dear, and they're probably not screening for that at the first round anyway. So an internal recruiter is going to have a better understanding of the corporate culture, obviously, and hopefully the values that the hiring manager is also screening for. They're likely to not be paid on commission, so they're not having to eat what they kill, so to speak. But the same is true for both, in that they are matching skill to skill. So here's the analogy I use with recruiters. They are reading a list of skills. They don't thoroughly understand the skills unless they've done the job, and that's usually a very, very rare occasion. So it's like telling someone how to drive a car versus they've actually driven a car and they have an understanding of it. So that being said, they're not going to understand things like transferable skills and how that would apply to the current role. A couple of things that can get you ahead of the game is to make sure that you have a very thorough understanding of the job description and what you've written in your resume and how those things match up, no matter if it's an external or an internal recruiter. There are a few other things that you can do in order to assure you get past this gatekeeper as well. Number one, use this as an opportunity to learn as much as you can. So before you even go into that interview, I want you to write down tons of questions. You might not have the opportunity to ask them because it is a screening interview, and so they might be leading the charge. But if you can better understand the role, you can speak to it and how you would be a great fit. So let me give you an example of a call I had with a recruiter years ago. I had a career in sales. I did mostly renewals and customer retention, and we get on the phone and she says, I'm looking for a hunter, somebody that can cultivate new business. And the first thing I said was, that's not me. We continued to have a pretty robust conversation, and I let her know what my skill set was and what I was brilliant at. But by me coming out of the gate and saying, I am not the right fit for that job, we saved each other a lot of time, which she respected. And then also when there was a role that was a good fit for me, she called me back. So it does help to ask probing questions or be honest at the beginning so you can better understand what you are looking for. Like I said, a recruiter is just reading a list and you have to be the one to interpret that list. Number two, assume nothing, especially if you do have transferable skills or there is a little bit of a mismatch where you're not getting to 100% with regard to the match on your resume and the match in the job description. You might need to not just lead the horse to water, but put the horse's head in the water and say, okay, drink now, when drawing a picture of how what you did previously matches up to what you would be doing in this new role. Be patient, be simple as you explain it, never be condescending, but just be honest as well. I think that's one of the things that can really go a long way with recruiters as far as moving you along. Number three, be a little bit personal if there's time. Now, like I've said, a lot of people are just on a mission and they're going through their checklist of do you meet this, do you meet this, do you meet this? But if you have the opportunity to say something, if they're an internal recruiter, hey, what do you love about this company? What do you love about your work? What do you find challenging about your work? That can make an impression that will move you to the next round. I specifically had that experience where I thought I was absolutely going to get nixed, but once I started talking to the recruiter about why she loved the company, which was she was divorced and she was allowed to work from home so she could pick her kids up at the bus stop. We were able to bond about that, and I moved through to the next round. Number 3, and this is obvious, practice your answers. You're going to be nervous, so make sure you understand what you're going to say ahead of time, and you'll be able to pivot easier that way if that's something you need to do. Number 4, mirror the recruiter's language. So again, another example, at a previous company, I was in account management. It was called customer success at another company for which I interviewed. So I changed that language from account management to customer success. Another thing that's happened to me before is people have asked me in screening interviews, how have you addressed X, Y, and Z with clients? And because I worked on Capitol Hill at that point and I was moving into a customer-centered role, I had to say, well, we don't have clients, we have constituents, but let me speak to that. So make sure that you're being clear about your language and what you can do so it makes it easier for the recruiter. As always, be positive, be authentic, double check as to whether or not you've answered all of their questions, thank them, and then write them a note at the end. Let me know in the comments if this was helpful, and if you have any follow-up questions, I'd love to be of help. Please like, share, and subscribe. That helps other people see this content so that they can win over the recruiter and make it through to the next round as well. I come out with new material each week, and I will see you then.